April Fools is generally a very fun mini festival in Guild Wars 2, an excuse to introduce a fun mechanic or event that players can enjoy and get a good laugh from. Sometimes those mechanics become a permanent feature of the game that actually improve the game in some way. Throughout the history of both Guild Wars and Guild Wars 2, we have seen a variety of different April Fool's jokes added to the game, and today I want to go over my top 10 personal favorites. Let's get started. In the number 10 spot are all of the cat updates. This is going to include a bunch of different pranks that have been added to the game over multiple April Fool's festivals, where for the most part, a lot of people in the Guild Wars 2 community really love cats. And ArenaNet developers themselves often really love cats. So we've seen a lot of cat-based stuff added to the game. In 2020, we saw the introduction of the Choya elixir, which would allow people who drink it to see several different gigantic cats hanging out in the major cities across Tyria, where honestly, this is kind of horrifying but also super funny. But with 2021, we saw the introduction of the Choya lens, where this is an accessory item that you can equip, which will let you see all the giant cats again, but will also allow you to see the various different extra life cats and animals that have been added to the game as a part of Extra Life, where players could donate money to have their pet added into the game. And I guess I'll give an honorable mention to Choya Wars 2 that was added in 2021, which added a bunch of Choya stuff to the game, and also Dog Days in 2022, which added a lot of dog stuff to the game. Both are on the honorable mentions list and are kind of similar to this. But with this year's update in 2024, as a reward for completing all the achievements for the Heights of Glory meta achievement related to what we're about to talk about, you can now get the Celestial Invisible Cat Cape, where this is a fun cape skin that allows players to have an invisible back item but still having an infusion showing in the upgrade slot. In the number 9 spot is Gwen-chan. This was a funny April Fool's joke from the original Guild Wars that was a part of April Fool's Day 2009, which I unfortunately never got to experience live since I wasn't playing the game at that time, but I really enjoy having learned about it and also the meaning behind everything. Gwen Thackeray is a super important lore character who played a big part in the original Guild Wars, who was present in pre-Searing, was a big part of the Eye of the North expansion, had a special story update for her, is present in Guild Wars 2 as a super important ghost, is the ancestor to Logan Thackeray, and many other things that can be attributed to her. But Gwen-chan is a cartoon version of the pre-Searing version of Gwen, who is featured on the Japanese Guild Wars webpage, who gives tutorials to the game alongside her companion known as Dr. Boar. And overall, I just think this is super cute and fun. But in 2009, all player characters in the various hub areas, like cities, were transformed into Gwen-chan, where they could walk around, do a few emotes, and just hang out as this character, which I think this is just one of those fun, random things that is so enjoyable about April Fool's jokes. A short experience with a funny mechanic. But additionally, there's now a mini Gwen doll in the game that is randomly awarded from the Gift of the Traveler that allows you to have the model that was used during this April Fool's Day event to walk around with you in the world as you adventure. In the number 8 spot is the Bobblehead update. This is from April Fool's Day 2014, where almost every single NPC and player model was turned into a bobblehead, where their body stayed the same, but their head was massively scaled up and also bounced around as they moved around. Where very similar to the Gwen-chan update we just talked about, this is just a random fun visual change that was funny to experience as you logged in and was very fun to mess around with. But in June of that year, the Bobblehead Laboratory was added to the game that allows players to gain the Bobbled buff, which allows them to see all the other characters and players in the game as if they had a bobblehead. So this April Fool's update is now a permanent feature in the game that players can experience if they want. But the laboratory itself has also been used to prank, I guess you could say, various players across the world for years, where this is kind of a funny thing, but it's mostly just an annoying thing for a lot of players, where people with these laboratories will place them down on the ground on top of a chest that a bunch of players are interacting with, where those players will interact with the laboratory instead of the chest and suddenly see everyone with bobbleheads. In the number 7 spot is all the patch notes that are introduced on April Fool's Day. Almost every year, we get a set of patch notes released that are not actually patch notes, but are just fun notes that players can read through to have a good laugh, where it's fun to think about how these changes could potentially be added to the game. But they also often focus on various ideas and discussions going on in the community about different topics in the game. They often feature jokes about different words, phrasings, and so on, and they tend to just be funny jokes that give players a good laugh as they read through them, where we see a set of patch notes released almost every single year in both Guild Wars and Guild Wars 2 that is always enjoyable to read through. To highlight this year's, we can read through a bunch of different fun notes. In the general category, we have removed all gathering notes from Tyria for polishing, which I believe is a fun reference to the community interactions I talked about in my top 10 trees video. But we also got options where the character select background have been expanded. Players may now choose from all future character select backgrounds, as well as current and previous backgrounds. In the Elementalist section, Unravel, the skill can now be used on bolts of cloth, to convert them into scraps. For Guardians, the Dragon Hunter Elite specialization, having fulfilled a lifelong oath following the final update for Guild Wars 2 Ender Dragons, has retired to a well-deserved slow life tending the old family farm. But further down in the World vs. World section, the alleged discovery of a dragon in the mists has brought the Dragon Hunter Elite specialization out of retirement for one last job. Where overall, these are always just fun notes to read through, and I am excited to do so every year. In the number 6 spot is the Aviation update. This joke is very similar to the Bobblehead update in many ways, but in 2015, the April Fool's Day joke of that year was that all player models would enter an airplane mode, where this would change a ton of things about your screen and character, where the biggest was how each character would hold their arms straight out, kind of like a T-pose, to resemble wings on an airplane. Characters would also make airplane noises while they move, and make a takeoff sound when they begin moving, and also make a landing sound when they stop moving. All characters would wear an Aviator cap for protection, and alongside a few other things, cameras that had post-processing set to high would use sepia tone filters, making the screen look a little aged. Where overall, this is just another one of those fun things that would give a good laugh as players logged in, and it was fun to mess around with a bit. But similar to the Bobblehead update after April Fool's this year ended, the Aviator's memory box was added to the game that would allow players to re-experience this again when they want, and it became a permanent feature of the game. Where very similar to the Bobblehead update, this is an item that a lot of players like to place down on different things that players interact with, like chests, where when other players try to open the chest, they just go into airplane mode. In the number 5 spot is the Golden Sink. This is a part of the April Fool's joke for 2020 that released alongside the Choya elixir, and I don't know why, but this one makes me laugh so much and I enjoy it a lot. Where a new guild decoration item was added that players can purchase during the month of April each year. This item is the Golden Sink, and in order to purchase it, you have to hand over 10,000 gold. Where this is obviously a joke to the idea of a gold sink that we see a lot in MMOs, including Guild Wars 2, where gold sinks are a way to remove some gold circulating in the economy, and this is a way to do that. But of course, it is an actual decoration that you can buy and place in your guild hall, which, fun fact, according to Guild Wars 2 efficiency, as I wrote the script, in order to upgrade your entire guild hall, as in maxing out every building and get every perk, your entire guild will need 10,102 gold. So the single decoration is almost worth as much as an entire maxed out guild and guild hall. But if you're able to raise the funds to buy this decoration, you can place it down in the guild hall and it looks like this. Pretty fancy, but here it is next to a player. Yeah, it's super small. And I just love how you have to spend 10,000 gold to get this decoration, and it's just so tiny. Solid prank. In the number 4 spot is Heights of Glory. This is actually the most recent April Fool's joke added to Guild Wars 2 that released just a few days ago, and should still be going on for a couple of days after this video is initially uploaded, where you get a letter from one Professor Small who requests you to come to Lion's Arch to test a new experiment that will allow everyone to experience the high life. Where you can go to Lion's Arch and acquire a Fool's Tall tonic that will grant you a variety of buffs, including a dramatically taller field of vision. And as you drink the potion, your body will contort and stretch as your torso stretches high up to Omnitus. This is a fun joke / reference to an incident that occurred a couple years ago with the Super Adventure Box update, where a new armor skin would cause Charr characters to look like this. It was the specific item and it only impacted Charr players, but this was dubbed as the Long Charr or Long Cat in some circles, and is one of the most popular bugs in the history of Guild Wars 2, where people have been wanting this bug purposely added back into the game in some capacity so we could enjoy the glory days of Charr society, and now we have it. In the number 3 spot is Fashion Wars 2. This is a super fun event that was introduced on April Fool's Day in 2023. This is a meta event that you can find at Crow's Nest and Lion's Arch, and it is a fashion competition. A long-running joke in the Guild Wars 2 community is how the true endgame is fashion, and honestly, fashion is definitely one of the biggest aspects of Guild Wars 2 when it comes to endgame. Pretty much every single update to the game and every piece of content adds or has a variety of different pieces of fashion that you can collect to deck out your character in unique ways, and this event allows you to show all of that off. Where people have always wanted something like this in the game, and now we got it. Where there are a variety of different prompts that will be randomly selected for each event, where players can dress their character to match that prompt as best as they can, and hang out behind the stage to potentially be selected to walk down the runway, where you can go down the stage, do a couple of fancy emotes, and walk back, where players in the audience can show their support for the people participating, and at the end, the various judges will select a winner, where the judges are a few random characters from Guild Wars 2, like Snargle Goldclaw and Duchess Chrysanthia. And overall, this is just a really fun event that players can participate in, where you can see some good fashion. In the number 2 spot is Annihilation Day, and the various other April Fool's Day jokes connected to this, where this is a multifaceted joke that spans multiple years and is also present in both Guild Wars and Guild Wars 2. Guild Wars is a fantasy game with swords, magic, dragons, and so on, but introduced in 2011, you can find Corporal Bane at Embark Beach alongside his KT-29 Mohawk, which is a massive helicopter based on the AH-64D Apache longbow gunship, where you have a special mission called Annihilator, where you need to travel back in time to 1059 AE to Lakeside County in pre-Syrian Ascalon during the Guild Wars to kill the Annihilator golem before it kills Sarah, Gwen's mother. Where this is a really fun quest where you become a Commando, a special class during this quest where you have unique skills that resembles a modern day soldier. But in 2012, Annihilator 2 Syrian Day was also added to the game, which is a quest where you travel back in time again, but this time to 1070 AE where you go to Ashford Abbey and have to defend Gwen from the G1000, but you're playing as the Annihilator golem instead of the Commando. Where these two quests are references to both Terminator and Terminator 2 Judgment Day, with some other references dotted in here and there. Where overall, this quest is also just a fun experience and is completely out of place from normal Guild Wars, but is definitely a fun prank. But there's more. Back in 2011, we saw the first major April Fool's joke for Guild Wars 2 as it was still in development, where there was a whole blog post alongside a full video that I'll link down in the description introducing the Commando class, where this is basically the class that you play as during the Annihilation Day quest in the original Guild Wars, and it was joked that this would be a full class with Guild Wars 2, but obviously it was just an April Fool's joke. However, in 2018, we saw the introduction of Jahai Bluffs during Living World Season 4, where a big part of this map are all the different rifts that are basically manipulating the space-time of different areas of the map, as some places are in the past, some places are in the future, and some places are from completely different parts of Terria as well. Where occasionally you can find commandos appearing through the rift, exclaiming that they are in the wrong place, and disappearing. Where then again with the Secrets of the Obscure expansion in 2023, we can find some more of these commandos hanging out around the expansion maps. Where overall, this is just a massive April Fool's joke that has lasted multiple years, is a big part of both games, and is one of my favorite jokes in the entire game. And now for the number one spot, for my favorite April Fool's joke in the history of Guild Wars, and this is pretty obvious for people who know me, but it hands down goes to the Super Adventure Box. Let's get all my emotions out of the way. Super Adventure Box is above and beyond my April Fool's joke in any game or website. It is in its own tier. Additionally, it is my favorite in-game festival across all of gaming, including the other Guild Wars 2 festivals, which I consider to be leagues above other games. Whenever the festival comes around, I consistently play through the worlds each day of the festival. I have completed everything in the puzzle except for collecting a few of the new skins, and overall it is one of my favorite things across the entirety of Guild Wars 2. It is just truly above and beyond one of my favorite things in all of Guild Wars 2, all of gaming, and honestly, all of everything. Where this was originally an April Fool's joke in 2013, where it released alongside a fun promotional trailer, as well as an official fan-made-esque game, where the Super Adventure Box takes place in the CERN invention of the same name, created by Modo, which this is an educational experience designed to teach younger Sura, where this is basically a massive game inside of a game that is a 3D platformer. So basically a giant jumping puzzle like what we see out in the open world. But there are a variety of different levels, a ton of different secrets and hidden areas, a massive amount of Easter eggs and pop culture references, a ton of different upgrades that can improve your ability to play the game, a bunch of different enemies, 2 whole boss fights, and so much more. This really is like a game inside of a game, where you can even unlock some special skins that you can use out in normal Guild Wars 2. In September 2013, we saw an expansion to the Super Adventure Box, where we got a whole new world with a bunch more of everything featured in it. And I absolutely love this update, but unfortunately, Super Adventure Box didn't return for several years, and it was one of my most requested things to be added or re-added to the game. But luckily, we saw the introduction of the Super Adventure Festival in 2016 that is now an annual event. And with 2023, we even got a test zone for World 3 added to the game that I absolutely love, and I really hope we continue seeing more worlds added to the Super Adventure Box up until the story is completed. And I just cannot express how much I love the Super Adventure Box, as it is just a phenomenal addition to Guild Wars 2 and my favorite April Fool's Day prank in the history of Guild Wars. And that's my list. I hope you enjoyed. April Fool's Day is often a fun experience in Guild Wars and Guild Wars 2, and I had so much fun going over all these different events and taking a stroll down memory lane. I'm excited to see what gets added in future years with new pranks, new mechanics, and hopefully new Super Adventure Box zones. I hope you all are taking good care of yourselves. Have a good one, everyone.